You're listening to the 23 Personnel Podcast, a Texas Tech athletics podcast where food and sports clash at the goal line. Here are your hosts, Spencer and Michael.
All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to an episode of the 23 Personnel Podcast. This is your host, Spencer, joined as always by Michael. Michael, what's up, man?
You can't win them all if you don't win the first one, man. That's where I'm at.
Nice.
You feeling good? You got some vibes going into Pullman this weekend?
No. I don't feel any better. I don't feel any worse. What I feel better about, like, I do feel better about something. Which we'll get into when we do our final recap of the game before we move on to our preview of the trip up to Pullman. We'll look at some injury updates. We'll look at Joey McGuire's post-game press conference comments, the preview week press conference comments, and then get you our thoughts on the game.
Hey, before we get too far, I did notice that your microphone sounds like it changed. I don't know if you need to address that or if that matters or not.
Well, 1 second.
Just thought in case it affects the recording, I better speak up. I hate to interrupt something.
Yeah, it must have. There was a momentary glitch when we were doing the pre-roll stuff, and it flipped over to the laptop. Give me 30 seconds.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
So you're hanging out with me. If anyone's just listening to this by yourself, I don't know if we're going to restart this or not. But as Spencer said, I think we're a little bit more even-keeled with how things went this Saturday. Had a lot of inexperience in the secondary, which is something we knew, but not something that I was, I don't know, as worried about as I probably should have been. And so now we've seen that firsthand, and it looks like Spencer's back.
I'm back. I was just realizing when I was gone, the 10 seconds I was gone, you were talking to the stream. Thank you. You will not hear Michael's comments on the recording.
Right.
Until I go back and clip that in. So the real ones will know because you'll catch both. You'll be streaming with us. You'll be listening to the recording. Speaking of, Michael, let's not get too much further into this. As we tend to do with football season here, we would like to welcome all of our newest listeners and followers, fans of the 23 Personnel Podcast production. Thank you all for your support. We definitely appreciate it. If you're still just checking it out, don't be scared to hit subscribe. YouTube on your favorite podcatcher.
You could be like Nathan, who just now submitted saying that he missed the post-game pods. It feels like Thanksgiving when your parents, aunts, and uncles all had the same abusive parents, and everyone just trauma bonds together. That's what I texted Spencer that earlier this week. I was like, I thought, man, I think misery loves company, and we're happy to provide that for you. Maybe not happy, but we're willing. It's just as much for us as it is for anyone else who cares to listen and interact. Hello, Maddie.
Hello.
Maddie's here too.
We know that as Texas Tech fans, you you have options when it comes to the podcasting game.
Oh,
We
many.
are nothing if we are not a podcast school. A new one started this week. Well, I say this week. I think they've got 3 or 4 episodes in now. Without doing the proper research, I'm just going to go ahead and claim it. We are the longest running Texas Tech podcast production out there. So we're the real ones, the OGs.
You can't fire us.
People come, people go with 23 personnel. We are here to stay. All right. Michael, let's do a quick recap. Let's beat this horse one more time.
Will it be quick?
No.
Sometimes we're a little long winded. Okay,
Mm-mm.
all right, jump in, strap in, everybody. We're gonna go over this thing.
All right, let's start with do you want to start with the game or you want to start with the post game comments? I'll let you choose.
I feel like post game comments, since we were recording our instant reaction during those comments, so
Sure.
I think that's a good place to start.
All right. So one of the things I said to be on the lookout for, because of the way that McGuire is a PR man, was that his message to the players was, "Don't hang your head. We won the game. We're 1-0." Who's surprised that he wanted to make sure that 1-0 was in there? He did say that he was looking forward to Tell the Truth Sunday, which I guess is their film review session. And he said that there are lots of things to fix and they need to address them in a hurry. So it wasn't all positive, even right after the game on Saturday. When I was most cynical that things were going to be spun positively, he did point out, going to the defensive secondary woes, 4 of the 5 starters back there were experiencing their first collegiate start. All 3 of the coaches that spoke on Monday in the Monday press conference, so McGuire, DeRuyter, and Kitley, made mention that there were a handful of players on both sides of the ball. Wow. That were just kind of awestruck and taken in by the moment. They were nervous. Had their pre-game, first game jitters.
You love to hear that going into a road game.
Well, yeah.
They were saying really a lot of confidence about to go to a road game if you had first game jitters in your home stadium.
Yeah.
But as Nathan pointed out, I think some of these guys on defense didn't know they were going to start until right as the game started.
Yeah, because Braylon Lux, I think that they were expecting it all the way up until like 1:00 that afternoon was expected to play. So Jalen Peoples didn't even get the nod and say, "Hey, you're going to be the starter," except with 5 hours heads up, which is quite a bit different. Like if you're preparing to go in, be the starter all week, it's a little bit different than last second, but day of. Post lunch, get ready for a nighttime game. Oh, hey, by the way, you're going to start today. You're going to get much more than the handful of snaps today. So you can kind of start to logic your way into some of the mishaps that happened defensively, the breakdowns in coverage. You had guys that were had their eyes were wide because they were their first start. They were, I wouldn't say intimidated, but they were just taken in by the moment. They were reverting back to bad habits, is what DeRuyter said when the lights came on. They had some lapses in communication. So when coverages were supposed to be passed off, or responsibilities from one guy to the next through motion or whatever, you can kind of put those things together. They're all young. Excuse me, they're not all young. But Horn and Peoples are young. Lewis is young. AJ McCarty, like I said, his first collegiate start. The one experienced starter, Baskerville, is kind of in a newish position. He hasn't been there the entire time. So it was kind of a bad combination there on top of, ACU coming out there with, an axe to grind with all those offensive skill players that had formerly been a Red Raider coming out wanting to prove something. Legitimately, is there a Super Bowl?
We had a comment on our instant reaction. I went through the YouTube comments here and there. I know you're not supposed to do that, but one of them was a lot of what he said was kind of BS. But I think one thing that he pointed out, he was either a big Tech hater or just the biggest Wildcat fan I've ever met. But he said that we probably neglected to take into account the cohesiveness of the offensive line, which I don't know if he's right or not, but they sure dominated. And that is something that I didn't look into at all last week. I didn't see how many starters they had coming back. I didn't check into that at all, look up ratings or anything like that, if that's even available for FCS opponents. So shame on me for not doing my research on the offensive line of Abilene Christian, but I believe that was a factor too. If what he said is true, I'm just taking it as face value.
Yeah. There's a comment here. Haley says, Mike Cope, McGuire saying defense dominated summer ball, and we all saw how good the offense is. And that's something that one of the reporters asked in the media availability, the press conference Monday. And it felt like he was really going to get like a really pointed question in to DeRuyter. And then as he went to just drive in that final stake, like took his foot way off the gas. Essentially was asking like, hey, like all summer, all fall camp, y'all talked about how good the defense was, how it was dominating the scrimmages. And then that happened on Saturday. And then he's like, so what's going to be the change in personnel moving forward with all the injuries? It's like, those are two very different questions, man. Like you got nervous, like there was too much eye contact or something, and you lost your intestinal fortitude there. But yeah, I mean that's a legitimate question, one that we all had, obviously, when we talk about, we'd heard about how good the defense had been doing. We'd heard about the depth, and my snarky comment from Saturday was, if you've got that many guys willing to play, you don't have a dude. And interestingly enough, Mr. Spin and hype man himself, Chris Level, came out and said, well, would you rather have, I can't even remember the guys he pointed to. He was like, would you rather have 3 Quincy Ledettes or a Broderick Washington? Or it's like, would you rather have a bunch of guys or would you rather have one dude? Well, 48 hours ago, that's not the tune you were singing there, brother. It was, we're so deep, where the defense is so great. And we've got all these guys we can rotate in and be so good, so fresh. So other things I want to get to, we talked about the absence of a pass rush. And that was brought up again on the Monday press conference. They asked DeRuyter kind of, when they're like, well, without getting into anything too telling for your future opponents, like how do you address that? He's like, well, they talked about how quickly the ball came out of the quarterback's hands. Remember how fast Bo Nix was last year? It was 2.6 seconds. McIver was 2.45 seconds. It's even faster. And then guess what? The starter for Washington State, 2.25 seconds. This was last week against Portland State. Ball was getting out 2.25 seconds. DeRuyter said, with that quickness, you're not giving yourself a lot of opportunity to get to the quarterback. So you have to do something. You have to mix some things up. What that is, I don't know. Because I don't know if you're good enough to sit back in coverage and let Mateer and Washington State pick you apart. You tried to bring pressure this past weekend against ACU. It didn't work. You got to figure something out. McGuire said they're defensively going to expect a lot of very quick throws and then vertical shots based on the way they did not handle those against Abilene Christian. Let's see what else. McGuire acknowledged that they didn't play complementary football, which we talked about when we had that long return that set up, Texas Tech right outside of the red zone. That 4 plays later, they're kicking a field goal. He's like, we can't have that. We got stuffed on the 1 yard line, and then we turn around and let them drive 96 yards for a touchdown. It's like, that's unexcusable. We can't have that. He looked at their plan to win, which was they forced a turnover, scored off that turnover, and special teams were elite. He said that's one of the things we can point to as why we won. He's like, I will not apologize for winning. Definitely feel 10 times worse when you lose a game like that. But I did feel some comfort, or there was some cope from me there, hearing that he was frustrated and did express frustration, even though he did also say a lot that, like, you can't dismiss this as a win, or you can't dismiss it only because we won. He was frustrated with it. There were players that were frustrated. He balanced that and said that the defense didn't point fingers and there wasn't blame going around. They were all bought in, which was a positive. When you could have said, or you could have looked around and seen guys that were like, well, that was on him. Like, he blew the coverage. He messed it up. It's his fault. He said, no, they were not like that. They were working to get better. So, let's see. Let's talk about and then so some of the bad habits that DeRuiter pointed to, and McGuire did as well, defensively, that said that these are things that they feel very confident are coachable and fixable quickly, is getting them more comfortable and situated back into their coaching and not relying back onto their old bad habits. They said they had bad eye discipline, so they were not looking in the right spot. If they were in man coverage, they were looking at the quarterback instead of at the receiver. That's how some of the guys got behind them. Like, that's absolutely not what you're supposed to do. It's like, yeah, duh. But some of those things were happening, whether or not they were communicating the call correctly, or they just reverted to bad habits. He said the players even acknowledge what they did wrong, which is a great place to start. Because if they don't know what they did wrong, then that's terrible. But also, they were asked about, this was I guess a rumor on Twitter, whether or not ACU had some of their defensive signals. He said they had a great enough relationship with the ACU coaches that they called him. They talked to him on Monday morning, and they were like, "Hey, what did you see? Like, what were some of your reads that you were getting that led y'all to be so successful offensively against us?" And they had a good conversation, and it didn't come up that they had their signs. So I think that was just a little bit of sour grapes, or somebody trying to cope there. McGuire, I believe it was McGuire, specifically referenced Kosai was on this coaching staff at one point. He's on up to Coffeyville now, the community college. But he said, like, he thinks very highly of him, would not have even crossed his mind that he would have done something like that. But also said that they had a good enough relationship with him that they probably would have told him, like, hey, we had your signs, and that was something that you need to consider moving forward. Let's do a quick injury update thing, because one of the comments I want to get to from Kitley was injury. It came out in the injury report that Taj Brooks is questionable for this weekend's game against Washington State, which was quite the surprise for me. He finished the game, didn't appear to go down, but one of those things that came up on the Sunday health report they do. Kitley was asked, okay, so how do you adjust if you were to have to play without Brooks? He said they have full faith in both of the cams. Well, I'm not so sure that's entirely accurate based on how the carries were split out. I get that you lean more towards your number one guy when you get into a close game, but you had opportunities before it was close to get them more than one carry apiece. The other thing I thought was interesting was he didn't stop there. He also said that the other skill positions would have to step up, the wide receivers and tight ends. So him saying that they have full faith in Cameron Valdez and Cam Dickey, but then saying the wide receivers and tight ends have to step up, kind of contradicts itself. At least,
Well, and how much more can they step up based off the performance we just saw?
I know. You had a great.
That's
game.
a pretty high bar, Joey. I don't know if we should expect that type of performance every week from these guys.
Yeah, and to that point, I know there's some people that were asking questions about Micah Hudson's participation in the game, and like, well, we didn't get to rotate as many guys in as we wanted to, and the guys that were ahead of him, you know, if Micah Hudson's fifth on the depth chart of receivers, guys 1 through 4 ahead of him, like we couldn't take them off the field. Like they had that great of a contribution to the game, and we needed them.
Yes.
I will point out though, Michael, and it may be because the coverage fell off after the ball was in the air, but that 4th and 13 deep throw to Conyers where it felt like it was forced into the end zone, there was one Micah Hudson running by himself through the back of the end zone.
Oh, really?
Now, his defender may have come out, like you didn't see him till late in the shot. He could have come off because the ball was on the other side of the field. But what you do see as the camera kind of pans over and zooms in, Micah Hudson running through the back of the end zone all by himself.
I had not seen that. So there you go.
So
the folks who were truly upset about him not playing, he just a bad read. Now you got to be upset at Morton, I guess, or Conyers for daring to catch that touchdown.
How dare you? Yeah, how dare you catch that?
Which wasn't really a.
Yes, it was
questionable touchdown.
You hold your tongue, Michael. Speaking of Morton, I feel like, at least without going back and re-listening to everything, I think I may have been a little unduly harsh on his game. Graded out, at least PFF wise, as a 90, which is fantastic. Threw for almost 400 yards, 5 touchdowns, 71% completion percentage. Kitley said they had 3 plays specifically over the entire game that they went through and said, like, you missed a throw here, you missed a read here, you pulled it when you should have handed it off, and that was it.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I want to back you up a little bit. I don't think you were harsh on Morton, but I do think we probably kind of took his performance for granted. I'll say that. I don't know if we really. Everything was so fresh and so sour right after that moment that you kind of forget how well he played, especially this being his first full start and having to score pretty much every drive and put up points and get yards. So with a lot of new receivers. So I'm
to that point.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the last time you had the ball, Michael.
Oh, no. I didn't realize how bad this was because
I didn't either.
The Gauchos went over this a little bit because I listened to it today too, and
I'm gonna go through it.
Yeah, I didn't realize how bad it was in real time, and it's bad. It's not good clock management. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, we're gonna talk about the clock management on Texas Tech's last offensive possession of the game of regulation. Abilene Christian had just scored it. Scored a touchdown to tie it, 42 points each. This is when they had that sky kick that I think it was Dickey caught it, and McGuire said like they had it blocked up and he could have gotten more yards, which is like even just incredible to think about. On a kick that was not kicked to McCray, you had even the returners, primary and secondary returners back there coming ahead to pick up blocks. And just the inexperience of the guy that was in there was what kept it from going even further. But you take over possession on the Texas Tech 33-yard line, 4:52 to go. I believe Abilene Christian had all 3 of its timeouts and the 2-minute timeout coming up. Interestingly enough, Michael, both announcers, the play-by-play and the color guy, took turns saying Texas Tech needs to lean on Taj Brooks. They need to go slowly and burn clock. One of them even says that Brooks is McGuire's wubby.
Oh, okay, that I remember.
Comfort blanket.
Yeah, that was. Did someone say that? Did McGuire actually say that?
I certainly hope not. I think
think they were quoting him.
It sounded like he was, but I was like, I hope not.
But it's so cringy. Whatever it was.
Okay, here it goes. Here's how the drive unfolds. Play 1, play action pass. That in and of itself, I think was brilliant. Coming in to that possession, everybody's thinking 4:52. It's a lot of clock, but you can probably burn it down if you run it a lot. First play is a play action pass. I'm on board with that. And you don't throw it deep. You throw it to the tight end who's leaking out of the backfield. Essentially, he's coming across the back of the offensive line on this little, it's not a curl. What is that? A flat route. To Conyers, who takes it 12 yards for a first down. Okay. I'm okay with that. It was a play action pass. You're trying to like, you do want to be effective when you have the ball. You want to move the ball. You want to ultimately score points here. Okay. Play number 2. Brooks run. It's a counter to the left, 22 yards. You're like, well, I mean, successful. You ran the ball, which you wanted to do. You picked up probably too many yards. The biggest problem is that with the clock running after the first down, you snap the ball with 22 seconds on the play clock. So you've gone 34 yards in 31 seconds. You need to take off almost 5 minutes of clock here. You've got 67 yards to go, and you go half of that in 30 seconds.
Well, I don't know. Yard per second sounds pretty fast to me.
I mean,
that's good, right?
In terms of being effective and efficient on offense, it's great. In this time of the game, you need it to be much more slow and plodding. Like, I'm thinking back to like North Dakota State and Colorado. North Dakota State had the ball. They were driving. They were like, it was comical. They had the ball. They were holding it. They were trying to score and leave very little time, if any, left for Colorado. I think they moved 6 yards in 4 minutes. They took 4 minutes off the clock and went 6 yards. Texas Tech, 34 yards, 31 seconds. Okay.
Well, and this was an ACU team last year who averaged over 200 yards rushing on defense. They allowed over 200 yards rushing, and our guys were not getting a lot of push on that this game. Maybe that was factored into it. I'm not trying to defend Kittley too much here, but that could have been part of it. Maybe they were concerned about running the ball.
Maybe, and that was something that Kittley said, is that some of the run blocking wasn't great. Brooks got his yards because of just the runner that he is.
Yes.
Here's where it starts to fall apart, Michael. Play number 3. The beginning of that play wasn't even caught on the broadcast because the broadcast was still replaying the previous play. They snapped the ball with at least 30 seconds left on the play clock. Short pass to Josh Kelly, turns it into a 12-yard gain. Fortunately, I guess you get a holding call on Tharp. So like you pick up the 12 yards, but then move 10 yards back. So technically you only moved ahead 2 yards, but you didn't do yourself any favors with the clock. Play number 4, 1st and 20, play action pass to Kelly, who goes 19 yards. Like, when we need to be efficient and move the ball and pick up yards, we're doing it with ease. It's almost like ACU was like, yeah, please go ahead and score, because we have all the confidence that no matter what you leave us, we're gonna do it. We have to come back. So 2nd and 1, play number 5, handoff. You finally get to another handoff to Brooks, except you snap the ball with 30 seconds left on the clock. You had, at this point, 3 minutes and 48 left in game time. You had snapped the ball 5 times in just over a minute of game clock.
What I'm seeing here is if you add those together, you could have burned at least a minute and 15 off by just waiting to snap with 2 seconds
Between plays 1 and 2,
left.
take 38 seconds. Plays 2 and 3, 38 more seconds. You're already taking off more plays before you run your third play that you have now through 5. So you're now in the red zone. So you've gone from your 33 into the red zone in a minute 15, essentially. You got 3:43 left in the game. Play number 6 is the same play you ran on number 1, is a play action pass to Conyers coming out of the backfield. The ball was snapped with 13 seconds left on the play clock. You're like, oh, we're getting better, but that's only because you subbed. ACU subbed, and they were winded. So the official stood over the ball until under 20 seconds. So when he finally moved, 7 seconds, you snapped the ball. Play number 7, you had an incomplete pass. Play number 8, you're 3rd and 1. Cam Brown comes in, subs in, you get the O-line penalty. 3rd and 6, play number 9, you go 5 wide and throw it out route to Kelly, incomplete.
That was probably one of Morton's bad passes.
It was it was a little bit like it was too far out for Kelly. I remember.
I feel like Kelly laid out for it, but still
he
didn't get close.
And so play number 10 is your field goal to go up 45, 45-42, and you took off. Let's see, drives.
Oh yeah,
Texas
I had
Tech,
this pulled
you
up.
took off 2 minutes and 13 seconds. 9 plays, 54 yards. You took off 2 minutes when you needed to take off 5.
Yeah, we've got Ryan and Nathan in here kind of commiserating with us. And Ryan's with me. He's like, in the stadium, it was the same for him. He didn't know if it was that bad. He was just kind of in the midst of a panic that they may actually lose the game. Wasn't really focused on clock management. And that's kind of how I felt watching it at home. I just thought, we got to get down there. We got to score. I was just probably more beside myself that we didn't get into the end zone. And then I was also really questioning bringing in Cam for that one play. And then the worst snap in the world that also resulted in it. And then, yeah, Nathan brings up the point. There's, you don't get a lot of help for your defense. It'd be cool if we were to score a touchdown under a minute because we might get the ball back. But to go through all that and only get a field goal, yeah, that's rough.
Yeah.
And not take if the goal is to just get a field goal and win the game or something, then I don't know what the goal there was just to score as fast as you could, no matter what it was, whether it was a field goal or to get in the end zone. And then, like you said, this, I don't think we talked about this on the instant reaction. I meant to the 2-minute timeout, patent pending, because much like Super Bowl, the NFL trademarks every damn thing. So I think that burned us really bad this game. Did we mention that? I know that the first 2-minute timeout in the first half, ACU lined up, and then of course clock stopped and everybody came off the field. We got a lovely commercial, and then we came back and they dialed up a touchdown. I forgot what the actual play was. It was like a 30-40 yard touchdown straight out of that 2-minute timeout. And then at the end, like you pointed out, you go into this knowing that, okay, they have X amount of timeouts, but they're also going to get the 2-minute timeout on top of that. And you still refuse to run the clock. At least, I mean, if you're going to do that, try to at least get the clock below 2 minutes while you have the ball. And then, okay, let the chips fall where they may. All right, they got the ball back with 1:45 left. Sorry, we slowed down our powerful offense as much as we could. There's only so much we can do. But yeah, I wondered too. I expected to see a little bit more buzz on Twitter about how, there's this 2-minute warning. We gotta end this. We gotta get this out of college football. This is the worst. I don't have an opinion on it except from, I think Tech did not benefit from it on Saturday night. That's for sure.
I'm going through really quickly. I'm trying to see. All right. Abilene Christian took their first timeout in the second half. It doesn't have a timer here. 12 seconds left in the third quarter. So they had 2 timeouts in the fourth quarter. Scrolling. There's your drive. So when you gave them the ball at 2:39 left, they had 2 timeouts plus the 2-minute timeout. They had 3 timeouts in their pocket. And they only had to use one, Michael.
Yeah.
There was a 2-minute timeout that was taken at 1:57. Abilene Christian didn't take a timeout until it was 39 seconds left. Texas Tech took 2 timeouts within 4 seconds, between 11 seconds and 7 seconds. We just let them have more time to think about it, or for us to dial up our own defense. But yeah, you didn't force anything. You didn't make them use their timeouts. They had 3 essentially at their disposal and used one of their own and then one of the 2-minute. So special teams, Dre McRae named special teams player of the week with his 165 return yards. Last year, he was one of the best returners in the country. He had 3 returns over 50 yards. This week, he had 2 already. One of them, you set up an immediate score. The other one, you should have scored on that drive, but you only got a field goal out of it. Concerning thing is you flipped kickers every time you sent somebody out there was a new kicker, including when you needed the field goal, the 41-yard field goal. So
Yeah, what did you think about the kicker rotation?
I hate it.
I don't like it either. I talked myself to in words. There's one way I've talked myself into this making sense, and it has to do with pressure. So each of these guys, which I think Garcia must have really had a bad camp and everything, which it sounds like that's what happened. And so Burkhardt is getting a shot, because it's weird to see the firm starter be usurped by somebody else in their second year without a very good reason. So Burkhardt coming in, the only advantage I can see to having 2 kickers is it takes the pressure off each of them. Because if they're truly going to rotate, then they're not over there with this mounting pressure and this, maybe constantly in their head the entire game. They're only doing that for half of it. Is that better? I don't know. Yeah, Garcia hit his 39-yarder in the second quarter. And then in the fourth quarter, Burkhardt came in with 8:32 left, hit a 41-yarder. And then I think with about 2.5 left, Garcia came in again in the fourth quarter and hit a 31-yarder. And he was 2 for 2 on PATs. Burkhardt was 3 for 3 on PATs. It's kind of all over the place. I kind of hate it too, but I like to think, well, if Garcia goes out there and kicks, then Burkhardt knows, okay, well, I'm up next, as opposed to,
sure,
it's always me. I've got to be ready. But in the mind of a kicker, it may not matter.
Well, and how do you settle this? How does one guy take over? It's like,
I know they both were perfect.
To miss one,
right?
You have that in their mind. Like, okay, what happens when they both miss one? Do we go back into this rotation?
Then you're doing that kind of like that 2 quarterback set where
you got none.
Oh, well, yeah, he had a bad drive that time. Let's swap the other guy in. And then you're pulling the confidence away from whoever you put out there first.
Yeah. So looking back at our predictions, Michael, I had Texas Tech winning 42-13. You had them winning 54-17. You were closer on points for both teams.
In one direction, yeah.
I mean, I only had ACU scoring 13. You were closer at 17. You were almost dead on with Texas Tech points, 52-54. So
I should have, like I mentioned, basically what I mentioned, that brief section where your microphone cut out. I just didn't take into account the youth of our secondary like I should have, and the talent on ACU's side of the ball when it came to offensive weapons, particularly Taylor. I mean, I looked at his stats last year, and he was great. And yeah, we got to see him run all over us because he's still pretty great. So I should have paid more attention to that, but I don't think I ever would have picked. I think even if I would have done that and then taken that YouTube commenter's advice and looked into the offensive line and done all that kind of stuff, I still think I would have had Tech winning by 21. I don't know if I would have changed things. That would have been, and I'm sure people would have laughed me out of the building if I'd have said, "Oh well, I don't know, Tech's only going to win 54-33." Everyone would go, "Oh my gosh, well that's we might as well just fold up shop if that happens."
I am really interested in how ACU football does the rest of the season. Like if this was like their high watermark, like they just went all in, and they're not able to duplicate this. I don't know why they couldn't be able to play like that. I mean,
I couldn't
know
either.
it's emotional, but
the way Taylor just split those zones and confused those DBs, I feel like he's going to do that every week to somebody. It seems like such an easy. He was so effortless being able
Martinez,
to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, all those guys. I don't want to dismiss the Tech guys, but I just thought Taylor specifically was one of, if not the best weapons on the field. Yet he kept going unnoticed and ending up wide open.
Yeah. All right. A brief recap. That's not us. We are now. Yeah, we're closing the book on Abilene Christian. 52-51. Yep. Moving on. Washington State Cougars up next this weekend. It's gonna be late.
There's gonna be a lot of eyes on this game, Spencer.
9 p.m. kick on Fox.
This is we're in Big 12 after dark territory, which I didn't think I would enjoy as much as I did. It was really nice after our game last week to know, somewhere Arizona's playing, Arizona State, maybe BYU will be a late kick sometime after a Tech game. It was just kind of nice to just switch over and continue to watch some Big 12 football. So yeah, this being a nationally televised one on Fox, I think I saw a graphic today that it was one of the most anticipated games of the week. I think these brands are both known for high-flying offenses, and when one of them scored 52 and one scored 70, they're probably talking that up quite a bit too. So it being on Fox is a big deal.
Yeah. S&P Plus, if you want to take into consideration, Texas Tech is 58. They were 41st. Washington State 50. So very much in line with the betting lines that are really close. We'll get into that in just a little bit. But the Pacific Northwest is not cool and rainy like the South Plains are. They are experiencing a heat wave, heat dome. High of 96 on Saturday. No rain, a little breeze. Whereas, those here in the wonderful hub city and the great state are enjoying 70s and drizzle. The Cougars, led by Jake Dickert, head coach, entering his fourth season. 16-16 as a head coach. Was the defensive coordinator and linebackers coach starting in 2020. Took over some just strange situation when the head coach and several other coaches were fired several other assistants were fired after refusing to comply with the state COVID vaccination mandate. So he took over as interim in 2021, it looks like. Yeah. Went 3-3 as the interim and then took over as the head coach there at the end of that season. A couple guys that you will recognize their names. Their offensive line coach, Jared Castor, former Red Raider. And then Colt Garrett is on their staff as well. And then those that listened to the press conference know their offensive coordinator, Ben Arbuckle, has some West Texas ties, was on Kitley's staff now 2 different times. One as a volunteer position, and then was a GA at Western Kentucky, but now is the offensive coordinator there for the Cougars. If you want to look back on road versus home rankings, Washington State's the 30th best home team. Texas Tech 103 on the road. Last year was not so great for the Cougars. They were 5-7. They started 4-0, then went 0-6. Their wins included at Colorado State versus number 19 Wisconsin, Northern Colorado, number 14 Oregon State, and Colorado. But they did lose to UCLA, Arizona, at number 9 Oregon, at Arizona State, Stanford, at Cal, and at number 4 Washington in the Apple Cup, although it was just a 3-point game. This past weekend, they took down Portland State 70-30. The big spread there, but I mean, Portland State's been the whipping dog for those Northwest schools for a while. Oregon does this to them all the time.
Hey, speaking of Washington, to use a phrase from the Solid Verbal, are we in letdown look ahead sandwich territory? Because Washington State, the Apple Cup, with the realignment and all the crazy things going on with the Pac-2 and the Big Ten, and long story short, Washington is no longer the last game of the season. It is next week. It is the 14th, which seems really weird.
Yeah, it's definitely early on in the schedule. There could be enough weirdness around the game. They're honoring the late Mike Leach, inducting him into their Hall of Fame. So there could be enough stuff around this game that there could be some distraction. I don't know. I don't want to believe too much into it.
Yeah, I know.
They are sporting the 23rd best S&P Plus offense. The Texas Tech defense fell mightily from 45th to 84th. They're led by youngin from Little Elm there in the Denton area. John Mateers, a sophomore, 6'1", 220, attempted all of 17 passes in 2023, backing up Cam Ward, and he attempted 17 passes this past weekend. In those 17 passes, he completed 11 of them. 5 of those were touchdowns. So 1 out of every 3 passes he attempted was a touchdown. No interceptions, 352 yards. So if you're doing the quick math there, that's 32 yards per completion, 21 yards per attempt. And then he did have 2 rushing attempts, 55 total yards, broke one of those off for a long touchdown. He was the second leading rusher on the team this past weekend. Their leader, running back Wayshawn Parker, freshman, 6 foot 200. He had 8 carries for 96 yards. That's 12 yards per carry with a long of 54. So even if you want to take that one out, he had 7 carries for 41 yards, which is 6 yards per carry. They were carving him up on the ground. It did include a touchdown. And then the other guy you will see tote the rock there, if it's not Parker or Mateer, Leo Palalsi. Nope. I'm not even gonna try that again.
There's another
Freshman.
A in there. It's fine. Don't listen to me.
Pulalasi.
There you go.
I don't even know. It's freshman, 6'1", 220, a little bit of a bigger back. And not that kind of big back, but it's a bigger running back. 8 carries, 54 yards, just under 7 yards per carry on the day. Receivers, man, he spread the ball around. He had
Well, this is for both because the backup quarterback came in later. So
okay.
I have here. Yeah, so there were 17 total catches the other day, and 10 receivers caught those 17 catches.
So yeah, they spread the ball around quite a bit. Led by Kyle Williams, 6 foot 186 senior, second year player for the Cougars, transferring in from UNLV. Last year, 61 catches, 842 yards. It's 14 yards per catch, 6 touchdowns. He was number 2 in yards and tied for number 2 in receptions. Josh Kelly was their number 1 guy last year. So great to have him. 923 yards and 8 touchdowns for the Cougars did Kelly have. And then current Denver Bronco Lincoln Victor had 89 catches for 890 yards. Was their other guy. Williams on Saturday had 4 catches for 141 yards with a long of 60, just about 59. Another guy you'll see, Chris Hudson, 5'11", 175 senior. So a couple of smaller guys, transferred in from Oregon, appeared in 34 games. Only 5 games for the Ducks last season. This past Saturday went 4 catches, 101 yards, 1 touchdown, a long of 59. And the last receiver you should be looking out for, Trey Shackelford, 6'1", 187, redshirt junior, transferred in from Austin Peay. Last season had 52 catches for just about 800 yards and 6 touchdowns. On Saturday, he went 2 for 52 and a touchdown. These are 1 game sample sizes, but the Washington State offense is averaging 413 passing yards per game. Texas Tech's giving up 506. That's 17.2 yards per attempt for the Cougars. Texas Tech giving up just under 10. Rush yards, they were able to amass 224 on the ground. Texas Tech gave up 109. That's 3.1 yards per carry for the Texas Tech defense, whereas the Cougars ran for 8.3. They did the Cougars 37.5% of their third down attempts. Texas Tech converted 68.5. Fourth down, they were 100%. Texas Tech gives up 50. They score 70 points per game. Texas Tech gives up 51. Hopefully that number comes down a little bit.
Yeah, please.
Defensively for the Red Raiders going up against, for the Cougars, they are number 86th S&P Plus defense. So very much like what your defense is. I think you were 84th. What did I just say a second ago?
Yeah, 84th or
84th.
5. I noticed they were really close.
Against the Texas Tech number 38 offense, moved up a couple of spots. Kitley says they are a cover 1 and cover 3 team, so they're going to roll one of the safeties down in the box to kind of give you a little bit more bodies in there, and then roll, like I said, cover 1 with the deep safety, or cover 3 and drop the corners back as well. They are led by Jeff Schmedding, which is just a fantastic name to say. He's their second-year defensive coordinator. Last year led all of Division I in defensive scores. They had 5 2-pick-sixes and 3 recovered fumbles for touchdowns. Schmedding, interesting path, was at Eastern Washington for 15 years, 2004 to 2018, then was Boise State for 19 and 20, and then was a defensive coordinator at Auburn for 21 and 22. But if you want to look at guys on the field, they're all different. The guys that led in tackles this past weekend, McKenna is a junior linebacker, Lamb is a sophomore defensive tackle, Steiner is a senior linebacker, and then Den Mbu, I'm butchering that, sophomore defensive tackle. Those are all guys that did not appear on the leading tacklers or their tackle list all of last season. Highest returning tackler was linebacker Al Ukta, who had 40 total tackles and 23. He finished the season 7th on their list in leading tacklers. And after game 1, Michael, he is 7th on the list.
There you go.
Defensively, bunch of newer guys. They gave up 234 yards to Portland State, which is a very efficient Portland State offense if they scored 30 points on 200 yards. Texas Tech is passing yards. Sorry, those are passing yards. 234 passing yards, 215 rushing yards. Good gravy. Offensively, Texas Tech threw for 378 yards at 9 yards per attempt, rushed for 161 yards, 5 yards per carry. Washington State, like I said, surrendered 215 at 4.5 yards per carry. Texas Tech offensively was converting 53% of their third downs and 33% of their fourth downs, whereas Washington State is allowing 37 and 50% respectively. Portland State put up 30 points against this defense. Texas Tech put up 52. If you like deep dives into the CFB graphs that Frogs of War does, you can go check that out. It's a little bit different setup this year, but it is a slight to fair margin to Washington State in this game. Win percentage, at least according to this metric, 57.6% for the Cougars to Texas Tech's 42.4. Projected points, though, has it as close, basically 30 to 27. Over under 57.5 points with a 2.5 point line for the Cougars. Betting wise, it opened up, I think, as a slight Texas Tech favorite, which I think was a surprise, but is now it swung to 1.5 points to 2 points in favor of the Cougars, over under 65.5, so a little bit higher than what CFB graphs was showing. Michael,
You want me to go first?
we both preseason took this as a Texas Tech loss. The game on Saturday did nothing to sway me. Spoiler alert. I don't know how to feel about this one. I think I'll know much more about this team after this weekend, maybe. But here we are. What do you think?
Well, okay, I'm with you. You know, that one day I teased that I was going to change my wins and losses because I had 7-5 for the year, and I thought, let's make it 8-4, and I was going to switch the Washington State game, and then before we recorded, I changed my mind again. Scout's honor, and so you and I have been worried about this game for at least a month, if not longer, and I still am. And so that score you picked is very close to the one I was going to pick. So I don't like it. I do think that Texas Tech's defense will bounce back. I think a lot of what the defensive backs were doing is fixable. I hope it's just technique. I don't think it's that they were outgunned by ACU's receivers necessarily. I watched some of this Washington State highlights, and it was obvious that Portland State just flat out couldn't catch Washington State's receivers or their running backs. I don't think that's the issue with Tech. I think the athleticism's there. It's just getting in the right position, and that's coaching, and that's going over film and, learning that you're going to start and get all those starting reps a week before. So I feel that the defense will bounce back to an extent. I don't expect them to be perfect because I do think there's too many flaws to fix in a week. Also, I'd like to point out that they scored 70 points last week. One of them was a pick six. That was just a god awful pass in the end zone. It was like a 105-yard return, pick six. So it's only 63 guys. It's not that bad.
And you put up 52.
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel good about the offense. I don't think that this defense gives me a whole lot to worry about. Something else worth mentioning, Portland State ran for 215 yards. Texas Tech has one of, if not the best running back in the Big 12. If he can find some lanes against these guys, which if Portland State was able to, by God, these guys better be able to. That's on the table too. So I think the offense will be able to score. Maybe they'll hold on to the ball a little bit more, maybe not score quite as fast, but I do ultimately think that they're going to have their hands full with defensively. against this team. I'm concerned that our rotating field goal unit may have some cracks in the foundation on the road. So all that to say, a very long-winded way of trying not to overcorrect or overreact, but I've been nervous about this game for weeks. So I've got Tech falling on the road, Washington State covering their measly 1.5, and then also taking the over. So I've got 38-35 Washington State right now.
Yeah, that's pretty close to what I had. Looking at the Portland State Vikings, they had, I think we talked about this. They had 48 carries in this game against Washington State last weekend, 215 yards, 4.5 yards per carry, and 2 touchdowns. Spread out mainly between 3 different running backs: Daylon Thompson, Quincy Craig, and Dante Sashery. I don't know. Between those 3 guys, they had 37 of the 48 carries. Nobody went over 100 yards. They had a long of 53, did Daylon Thompson, who led them in 96 yards rushing. Dante was their starting quarterback. Quincy Craig was their second string quarterback. So they ran a lot of quarterback run, did the Vikings.
Yeah, when Daylon Thompson's averaging 6.5 yards per carry, Taj Brooks may feast. I thought he would last week too, but I was very wrong on that. I mean, he had a good game. I'm not putting it down, but I thought we might see 150 yards through 3 quarters, and then he's over on the sideline just hanging out the rest of the game. But that wasn't the case. So I feel a little bit more confident that the running game can get going against this team, considering Portland State was able to do that. Yeah. But I just getting this win on the road. I don't know enough to say if it's a tough environment to play, but it's definitely a unique environment, and it's going to be it may be tough because there will be it'll be a packed stadium. They'll be there to honor Leach. I think they cherish Leach just as much as we do, possibly more because of what he was able to do for their program, who I think historically had even less success than Texas Tech at the time that Leach took the helm. I think that's going to be a big factor in it. A lot of eyeballs on this game just in general. Ryan mentioned earlier, do we want the eyeballs at this point? I think so. I think we'll take them. Maybe, hopefully.
Yeah. So looking at the matchup predictor here at ESPN's FPI, it has Washington State as a 63.2%, Texas Tech 36.8%.
They're even less confident than we are.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
I've got Texas Tech losing by a touchdown here. Also hit me over. I've got Washington State winning this one 38-31. Feels like a lot of points. But I think both offenses are pretty good, or at least both defenses are pretty bad. So maybe this is low. And maybe if we get in a shootout, I would like our chances better with the skill position guys we have, and how we performed. I guess, looking back at that drive that ultimately ended in a field goal where we were trying to burn clock, and then how you started that game, offensively, you were efficient. You moved the ball on the ground, through the air. Morton was decisive outside of that one sack he took. Knew when to bail on pockets, knew when to throw it away. He's got more experience than Mateer, older, but also played in more games. We'll be on the road, so I don't know. It could get into a shootout, and I would tend to think the home team would have a little bit of a favor there, but I think there you could talk me into saying Texas Tech has more intangibles that would lead to an advantage if you get into that type of game. Um, but I'm sticking with it. With a loss we had preseason, nothing from week one has changed my mind about that. Um, Taj Brooks is healthy, plays this game. He may have another 150-yard game, but it may not be enough. Texas Tech losing 38-31 is what I have. All right. Let us know your score predictions. What you're looking to see Texas Tech do on the road this weekend. All that kind of stuff. Let us know where we're wrong, where we're right. Let's look around the rest of the Big 12, and then we'll wrap this thing up, get to your questions, and what do we learn? So this week, you have 15 Big 12 games on Saturday, just one non-Saturday game, and that's BYU coming to Dallas. I say coming like I'm in Dallas, but BYU in Dallas take on ACC Dark Horse. Just kidding.
Oh, it's a good
SMU.
pun. It's a good pun.
Currently, they are 10.5-point underdogs to the Mustangs. Friday night, 6 p.m. ESPN2. And then Saturday with 15 games gets kicked off at 11 a.m. Pitt at Cincinnati. Kansas, that's on ESPN2. Kansas State at Tulane. Sorry, Cincinnati's a home favorite there versus Pitt, 2.5. Kansas State at Tulane, 10-point favorite, 9.5 for Kansas State, 11 a.m. on the mothership, ESPN. Arkansas at Oklahoma State, 7.5-point favorites, also at 11 a.m. on ABC. We are basically just holding down the entire ESPN ABC inventory there at 11 o'clock. ABC,
Love to see
ESPN, ESPN2. Afternoon slate, you get Iowa State at Iowa. Boring. Iowa is 2.5-point favorites there on CBS. Baylor at Utah, non-conference game. Utah's a 14.5-point favorite there in Salt Lake City, 2:30 on Fox. Albany at West Virginia, 5 p.m. ESPN Plus. Sam Houston at UCF. UCF is going to do just dirty things to Sam Houston, like they did to their other FCS. I guess Sam Houston's not FCS anymore, but they're still making that transition. UCF 21-point favorites there, 5:30, also on ESPN Plus. Kansas is almost a touchdown favorite on the road at Illinois, 6 p.m. kickoff on FS1. Colorado at Nebraska. Nebraska is getting 7.5 points there at home, 6:30 on NBC. Houston did not look good in game one. Traveling to Norman, Oklahoma. Oklahoma is a 30-point favorite, 29.5 on the SEC network, which is strange. I saw highlights from Oklahoma game this past weekend with the SEC patch on their shirt. It's like, oh man, that's going to take some time.
Well, a lot of these things were, Colorado at Nebraska on NBC. That's weird. Iowa State is playing Iowa on CBS. CBS makes sense, obviously, for the Big Ten, I guess, but that's just still weird to have the Big 12 on NBC and CBS.
Yeah. You get the afternoon game, that primetime CBS slot. Have a Big 12 team.
Mm-hmm.
LIU at TCU, 7 p.m. kick there in Fort Worth, ESPN Plus. Northern Arizona at Arizona, 9 p.m. ESPN Plus. Mississippi State at Arizona State. Arizona State,
Yeah.
touchdown favorite there after dismantling Wyoming. We'll get to that in our questions in a second, but 9:30 on ESPN Plus. ESPN. So every window you've got games, you got interesting games. Every window's not like you've got loaded up with a bunch of LIU at TCU all in one window or one slot. You've got your choice of over-the-air TV. You got streaming platforms: ABC, CBS, Fox, NBC. ESPN, ESPN2, ESPN Plus, and the SEC network. Oh, and FS1. Did I forget somebody? No.
ESPN Plus.
Yeah. And that's not even taking in Texas Tech. Texas Tech is playing on Fox at 9:30 as well. So you've got
That's true.
ESPN, ESPN Plus, and Fox all kick off there at 9 o'clock or 9:30. All right. Question for you, Michael. I have a question. I'm not even gonna play the bumper because it doesn't even matter. I want to hear your overreactions from week 1. Who's better?
As far
who's better than we thought they'd be? Who's worse, based on what they did in week 1 or week 0, but week 1.
well, I mean, I think the obvious one is Florida State.
Oh my gosh,
is not very good.
0-2. Yeah,
One of them at a neutral site and one at home.
To Boston College. Bill O'Brien's first collegiate game as a head coach. Boston College took him down.
Yeah, I think that's kind of my obvious overreaction. I do really appreciate all the graphics of. Here it is. That was what, September 1st, and there were all these graphics showing up on Twitter. Florida State eliminated from the college football playoff.
Yeah.
You're like, well, guys, I mean, probably, but they could run the table and somehow be the second place ACC team. And I mean, crazy stuff can happen, but I just thought that's so strange to just, with your full throat, just be like, yeah, they're eliminated. I don't know if that's even true. I don't think that's technically true. It's not like, when you're in September and in Major League Baseball, or some Major League Baseball is so damn long that you probably eliminates people in July, but that's actually done with math. I think these people just put a graphic together. It seems like there's still a chance they could make the playoff, but it's could be really, really slim. And here I am. I'm that guy talking about the playoff in September. I don't care about the playoff right now.
It's really, this is just sad. It's like word association, but like picture association with me. When I see Mike Norvell, you know who he reminds me of?
Who's that?
Friend of the show, Seth Youngman.
Really?
I think they bear a striking resemblance to each other.
They do.
If y'all have ever met Seth, salt of the earth, fantastic human being. Love the man.
He's running a 50K this weekend, Spencer.
I couldn't even.
I thought that was a typo. I had to look it up. It's a real thing.
Yeah.
Hats off to him, man.
Hats off to that physical specimen. And then just the wonderful human beings he and his wife are.
Oh yeah.
And they're just,
and the boys,
wonderful. Yeah. Wonderful young men.
Yeah. 7th grader and 9th grader.
Yeah. Anyways, wow.
Nathan was like, WTF, Seth?
Stop
the 5K.
50K.
Oh yeah. I see. Anyways, I can't even, my brain can't even comprehend it.
So yeah, it was bad because it was memes of Florida State or just shots of him like eliminated, stamped across his face. Like, it's not my Seth.
No.
Okay, my overreaction. Let's think about it for a second. I should have had this like much more ready. Florida State's a good one.
I've got a hot take overreaction.
They are. I mean, as Nathan points out, first top 10 team to be 0-2 by the end of week 1. Which that's kind of funny that you. Okay, by the end of week 1, not many teams have played twice, and let alone have a top 10. But I'll have one for the Big 12, and then I'll let you go and see if there's something else.
Okay.
I get that it was just like it's overreaction. It's fine. UCF, pretty impressive to me.
Okay. I admit that I really only watched the first quarter. They looked like ass the whole first quarter. They were terrible on offense. And the only reason they got into the end zone was a really athletic, well-returned interception. that was down at like the 3. KJ Jefferson was just no, he was not good. The second time they got to the end zone, I think they just direct snapped to the running back so that they would actually score. But that was right when I forgot what game came on after that I switched over to. So I didn't see anything beyond that. But obviously they took care of business after that. So maybe it
Well,
was
let
just
me
first
just
quarter jitters. But go ahead. Let you finish your point. Sorry.
no. Okay, so passing wise, yeah, not super impressive. They ran 2 quarterbacks in. They had 22 total passing attempts on the day. They finished 50%. Both of them were 50%. KJ Jefferson 7 of 14, Ja'Carri Brown 4 of 8. So 11 of 22 for 184 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, interception between the two of them. On the ground, though, it's a different story, Michael. They ran the ball 54 times, 454 yards, 8.5 yards per carry, 5 touchdowns. RJ
Eight and a
Harvey
half yards per carry.
on the game, 8.5 yards per carry. They had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys carry the ball. RJ Harvey led them 11 carries, 142 yards. That's 13 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns, long of 60 yards. Penny Boone, 7 carries, 81 yards. That's 12 yards per carry, 1 touchdown, long of 59. Miles Montgomery, 8 carries, 77 yards. It's just under 10 yards per carry, 1 touchdown. Ja'Carri Brown was their backup quarterback, 7 carries, 60 yards. It's almost 9 yards per carry. Johnny Richardson, 7 carries, 40 yards. You're finally getting some human numbers here. 7 carries, 40 yards, 5.7 yards per carry. KJ Jefferson, 11 carries, 39 yards, 3.5 yards per carry, and a touchdown. Like, their ground game is ridiculous. Or at least it was in this week. So I just came like that 454 rushing yards was just mind blowing to me. Maybe it's a week 1 overreaction, but for me, that was impressive. Maybe it's also Arizona State taking care of Wyoming the way they did. What about you? Did you have another one?
I've got an overreaction that's just kind of a trolling hot take. So Louisville, I think Louisville might make the ACC championship again. Tyler
what'd they do?
Shuck. Tyler Shuck. You heard of him?
Yeah, they took care of Austin P.
18 of 24 for 232 yards and 4 touchdowns. And that was through 3 quarters, I believe. They played 3 quarterbacks on Saturday.
232 yards, 9.7 yards per attempt, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions.
The other thing that it's not really a hot take, it's just an item of concern. So North Texas, who Texas Tech plays, let's not look ahead too much. Let's go 1-0 again this week. But North Texas went on the road to South Alabama, and after being down 19-14 at half, scored 38 points in the second half, including a 28-point third quarter. Their quarterback threw for 415 yards.
They're going to do that to us, aren't they?
They had a wide receiver. Get this. 12 receptions, 2 touchdowns, 230 yards.
I don't like it.
I don't like that either. But I thought I just had to bring it up. It's not really a hot take. It's just kind of like it's a heat check.
They were at South. They did that on the road.
Yeah, they did that on the road. And they were down at half. And came back and just destroyed them, 52-38.
Chandler Morris, 32 of 41 on the night, 415 passing yards, 10.1 yards per attempt, 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, not too bad.
They ran the ball 34 times for 104 yards. That's not going to win you a lot of games, though.
Yeah, I know. That was one thing I thought, okay, it's either that's a very legit air raid. Not a lot of ground game there. So that could work to Tech's advantage if we can get our secondary figured out a little bit.
They had 10 receivers catch 33 total passes, 446 yards, 3 touchdowns. Yeah, Damon Ward Jr., 12 catches, 230 yards.
Okay, one other hot take.
Okay.
Well, not a hot take, but overreaction. And you were already kind of on top of this, but are we? Is Houston staring down the barrel of 0-12?
Funny you ask, because what did we what did we do with their preseason schedule?
Oh, I'll have to. I can pull it up. Yeah, if you go to that Big 12 schedule, nope, that doesn't do it.
Not
Dang
the
it.
media guide.
If
Dude,
you go up
can
to the
leave
very,
it
very
out.
top of the doc,
Let me
I've got it up there. It's like Big 12 official schedule matrix link.
No, I want to look at our spreadsheet.
Oh, okay, my bad. It's up
right
there too.
underneath that. Yeah. Okay. Houston, where are they? Okay. We had them. I had them going 2-10, winning against UNLV. They've already lost that. And then winning the home game versus Rice. in
And I
week
think you were
3.
more optimistic or less optimistic than me.
So they're not going to get the win this weekend against Oklahoma. Cincinnati, Iowa State, TCU, Kansas, Utah, Kansas. They have a brutal stretch there between their 2 bye weeks. Arizona, Baylor, BYU.
I take that back. We had the exact same. I had them going 2-10.
That Houston Baylor game may be interesting and to see who's worst.
Well, Baylor at least. I mean, they looked competent this week. I think we'll know a little. Well, who
Well,
did
they
play
played
this?
Tarleton.
We'll know more this week after they play Utah in their non-con game, but
They're going to get waxed.
they might. They might.
All right.
So yeah, that was my overreaction. Houston could go 1-11 or 0-12. I don't know.
We probably have this in the wrong spot, but commenter here says, Ryan, we're going to win by 50 if Texas Tech wears the all whites.
Yeah, I think you had a post early when we first started in the chat, something about the uniforms. Man, those all whites are icy. I like it. I think they should wear it because it's gonna be hot.
It's going to be hot. I mean, all white's going to look good about really any combination that of their red or gray that Washington State's going to roll that in.
Yeah, black,
Um,
white, black would look pretty good too on the road.
Yeah, that's up there. All right, let's wrap this thing up to get to what do we learn? What do you say?
All right.
What did we learn, Palmer?
I don't know, sir.
I don't know either.
All right. I will confess something, Michael. For roughly let's see, I moved out here 2007, 17, let's say 15-ish years I've lived out in this area. I've never been to Palo Duro or Caprock Canyon.
I went for my
Changed it.
first time last fall. I don't remember. Anyway, I'm with you. I've only been once. To Palo Duro.
Yeah, we went to Caprock on Monday.
Great idea.
I guess it's just a little bit closer.
Yep.
Went out there to right outside of Kittiquay, and took in Caprock Canyon State Park. Went with some family. Took all 3 kids. We did a short, total about a mile hike, on the trail that goes out towards Fern Cave. If y'all are familiar with that area, enjoyed it. Have some pictures from the excursion. We picnicked out there. Kids playing on the playground. We drove around the park a little bit. We were probably out there 3-4 hours total without getting any heavy hiking in. Thoroughly enjoyed it. One, it was like 70. It was cloudy. It did not rain while we were there. It rained almost the entire drive up and almost the entire drive back. So we counted our blessings that we were able to get out there and enjoy everything dry, but nice and cool. If you haven't been out there, highly recommend it. I think it was $10 for us to get in for the adults. Kids are free. you should go on the bye week coming up.
Oh,
Don't have
that's a
anything
great
else
idea.
planned for the family excursion to Paladuro or Caprock. Should be on your list.
I agree. It is on ours because we keep trying to plan it to where maybe we make a little short weekend of it and stay at Hotel Turkey, which we keep hearing is a lot of fun. Kind of a good family atmosphere, a lot of music coming through there, good barbecue. Just so go tour around Caprock during the day, get back to the hotel, enjoy some food and some music, and go to sleep and mosey on back an hour and a half home. Nothing to
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it was a short drive, hour and a half. Had heard good things about Hotel Turkey from friend of the show, Keith Patrick.
Yes.
So,
And Mr. Root, also friend of
Oh,
the
yeah.
show.
friend of the show, Mr. Root. All right, what'd you
So,
learn?
I learned, man, just kind of going off what you said, this cool weather, I think we might have manifested this slightly. I believe I got on here on my soapbox and talked for a good 5 minutes about Oktoberfest beers coming out when it's 104 degrees and how depressing that is. And then by the time it's cooled off, they're already off the shelves, and pumpkin spice stuff's on which I like pumpkin everything except beer, pretty much. Put it in whatever you want, but beer, I'm like, nah, I think I'm good. But this Labor Day, I got to grill in the rain, which I have, I'm covered outside, so it wasn't a big deal. I got to have an Oktoberfest while I grilled, and I had a pumpkin spice latte that afternoon.
Nice. I don't actually know if I've seen
beautiful.
your back patio, backyard setup.
You
How many
have
times has I've been to your house?
no. I think the first year we were recording, we recorded an instant reaction back there once.
Yes,
But it's changed a lot since then, and it was pitch dark. So, yeah, you
We-
probably don't remember what was back
my
there 7 years
gosh.
ago.
Throwback to instant reactions we did in the truck or on
Or
the
on
back
Whataburger.
patio.
We
Or
tried to
at
do some of
Whataburger.
them in Whataburger. Yeah,
Didn't we do one in the dining room of Hub City Wings? Pretty sure we
Maybe.
did.
maybe so.
Oh my gosh. We had the little audio recorder and we just put our mic straight into it. Wow.
I was holding it with my hand and not very steadily, so you just
Oh
hear
yeah,
the
you get a lot of this going on. Yeah, that was probably us. We probably
We're way
manifested
more
all of that.
professional now. Way more
Yeah,
professional.
we just punch the mic stands now and
I got to make sure you're still listening sometimes.
boom.
I hit it
Right
with
on
my
the mic.
Tervis just to make sure. I got to check. Got to hit that spring just right.
Yep. No worries. Yeah, we didn't grill Monday. We didn't plan out dinner so well. When we got back, we needed to go to the store. We're like, we're too tired for that. So we just picked up some Taco Villa.
Ooh.
I have grilled in the rain. I've run the smoker in the rain. The probably one that I had the most trouble with, and I don't know why I do it so often. The Blackstone, with a little bit of like a mist blowing in, just wreaks havoc on everything. It keeps cooling off the top just enough. But man, it's so nice to be outside, to be able to enjoy the weather. Open the back door. We have the a mosquito net or whatever that we have to shut, but we don't have an actual like screen door. But I think it was open for most of the day today. I guess it was until like 4. My neighbor had like their lawn crew come over like super late for them on their schedule. I was like, I'm not listening to that anymore.
We've got real quick before you wrap it up. Ryan said that he made his first batch of stew of the season on Monday, and mentioned that it was perfect crock pot weather. Absolutely, it was, brother. Stew. I've been looking up pozole. I'm like, where do I? We have all this green chili I talked about in the freezer, and my wife and I are like, oh, when can we start making stew? Is it time to make stew? So yeah, I'm right there with you, Ryan. I don't know how we haven't done it yet.
We did a fall weather Rogers Family Classic tonight. We did grilled cheese and chili. which we usually reserve till it starts to get cooler.
We got to when you live out here, if you get cool weather, there's no reason to wait. There's no reason to wait. Well, I'll wait till it really cools off to make Frito pie. No, act
Jump
now.
on it now.
Act now, because it might be 107 next week. We don't know.
Speaking of Pozole, did you see that lady posting the LBK foodies group about Pozole?
Yes, and it was
Okay.
so odd because I was in that group like an hour or two before searching Pozole, and
Nice.
she posted that afterward. At first, I thought, oh man, now I'm going to get all these ads for this, and then I realized it was from a group I'm actually in. It just happened to be a coincidence.
All right, one more question.
Yes.
Again, I don't know how active you are in that group. Double Dave's posted a picture of a new menu offering, a new pizza that they're going to offer.
Ooh,
Pizza of the month.
I usually have a strong reaction to these.
It has nothing to do with the pizza itself. I commented. I was trolling. I was just being inflammatory. And whoever runs their social media replied back. And I was the only person they replied to. First, the pizza is a jalapeno popper pizza. And it's like
Okay.
one of those thin crusts that they do, but like it's like a really thin top and bottom crust. Like a really thin stromboli.
Okay.
But it's got like cheese and cream cheese and jalapenos and bacon, all this stuff in it. Whatever. That pizza sounds fine, and I would eat a slice of it. But my biggest thing with Double Dave's is when they took the buffet away. Because in my mind, Michael, the quality of pizza at Double Dave's is such that it's a buffet pizza. It's not I'm going to order a pizza from Double Dave's. I'm going to go get the buffet. You know what I mean?
I do, because we did get Double Dave's quite a bit, especially when we lived closer to it. But we never ordered pizza.
Exactly.
We got pepperoni rolls or we got that beef stromboli, which is fantastic. And sometimes I think we'd get the chocolate chip, one of their dessert pizzas,
Mhm.
which I
So
really like. So we never ordered pizza from there, but we did get it quite a bit when we lived closer.
the pepperoni rolls, the Philly cheesesteak stromboli thing,
That's the one I meant. Yes.
spinach artichoke one they do. It's also really good. Dessert ones are really good, but their main pizzas, I could leave it. Anyways, so I commented on the post and said, "Bring back the buffet, you Aggies." Throwing shade because the guy, like, first store opened up in College Station. If you do some research, he's not from College Station. I think he settled in Austin and then opened the first one. But this felt very much masculine in the response. He said, "Buffet is not a business model we care to or want to be in these days. And last I checked, I went to Texas Tech, ... I was like, you missed the mark on both of those points, brother. But okay.
I thought you meant you got like a moderator of the group replied to you. I didn't realize
No,
Double
whoever
Dave's
runs
personnel.
Double Dave's personnel, the manager.
It's our
whoever
competing
runs it.
podcast, Double Dave's personnel.
The Facebook is going to take entirely too long to pull it up. But anywho's, yeah, again, Double Dave's pizza is fine. It's not something I'm going to seek out and order by itself. The jalapeno popper pizza sounds good. I'm not going to order an entire jalapeno popper pizza. I would have a slice of it if it was on a buffet.
Capital makes a fantastic jalapeno popper pizza.
Capital also does a buffet.
Yes, they do.
Like
only
weekday
during lunch.
lunches. Yeah, weekday lunches. I only think about it on Saturdays. I was like,
I know.
And I always check it. I was like, every weekday, like 11 to 1 or 11 to 2. I was like, dang it. I almost went this weekend, but I was the only one that was in the mood for pizza. I was like, well, I'm not going to a buffet by myself.
Yeah, you don't want to drag people to a pizza buffet.
And kids, like, you have to hit the appetite just right for kids to actually make a buffet worth it. Not that Capital is all that expensive for a buffet. It's like 10 or 11 bucks. But still, like, you can't go to a pizza buffet with kids and pay all this money like they have 2 or 3 slices. Like, nah.
Boys, I need y'all to stock up.
You need to house an entire pizza.
Bring your fanny packs.
Yeah.
We're gonna take some to the house.
All right. Speaking of taking to the house, that'll do it for us on the 23 Personnel Podcast. Get you ready for kickoff against Washington State this weekend, Saturday night. It's going to be a late one. Instant reaction will follow early Sunday morning. Maybe. We'll see. Michael and I both picking Texas Tech to lose this one close-ish, but we'll see how it goes. For Michael, I'm Spencer. We'll catch you guys next time.
Thank you for listening to the 23 Personnel Podcast. Help us out by subscribing, rating the show, and leaving a review. Follow us on Twitter at 23 Personnel, Spencer at PuntSuck, and Michael at Michael_LBK. Be sure to catch the next episode. And until then, guns up and let the tortillas fly.